Clearly, they have not changed the calculus of Moscow and its desire to pursue the conflict. But I think we should be aware that these sanctions are there for the long term. Their goal is to isolate Russia over the long term, and it is important that the members of the G7 sustain the pressure against Russia, and as long as it takes, as long as Russia does not withdraw its troops from Ukraine. More importantly, I think it is critical to articulate these sanctions with the military assistance to Ukraine, which has a direct impact on the battleground and helps Ukraine to regain territories.
There's been an emphasis on unity within G7. Do you think G7 will continue to remain unified, given that the sanctions will keep raising prices for consumers and keep hurting economies?
Clearly, the sanctions have a damaging impact on the G7's economies, notably in terms of inflation and energy prices. The European Union has already taken quite ambitious steps in terms of limiting the inflation by notably diversifying their energy supply, by also purchasing jointly energy to limit the increase in prices. And I think this is essential to sustain that unity over the long term.
Countries like Turkey and China, they say that, in fact, diplomacy would work where the sending of weapons and more sanctions would not. What do you think about these two different approaches?
Diplomacy will only be feasible and realistic when Ukraine is in a position of strength on the battlefield and when Russia perceives the sanction as unsustainable. And clearly, we need to maintain that pressure, to maintain that assistance to Ukraine before being in good position, in good conditions for potential negotiations. And at the end of the day, it is up to Kiev to decide the contours and the timing of a negotiation with Moscow.
And if we could move to Taiwan now. Last year, in the joint statement, there was the inclusion of the importance of peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. With this year's hardening of attitudes, what do you think we could see in the joint statement?
Well, I think that it is clear that the members of the G7 have hardened their attitude on the Taiwan Strait question. They believe that the situation in the Indo-Pacific is deeply intertwined with the stability of the Euro-Atlantic area. There is now this concept of one theater, which clearly describes that the security challenges in the Indo-Pacific and in Europe are deeply interconnected. And we have seen that many leaders of the European Union have visited recently the Indo-Pacific, and in each visits, they have clearly stated that the stability of the Taiwan Strait is critical, including for Europeans. So I think that the communique of the G7 will clearly demonstrate this shared concern that China might take advantage of the war in Ukraine to take action against Taiwan.